Well, there you go. I don't know if there's anybody here, but all right. Sorry about all the waiting, folks. It was some technical difficulties because God knows I can't ever do anything easy. Jeez. I love being mentally technically insignificant or something like that. Anyway, hi. I have no idea what we're talking about, and I just realized that I did not put my live on Twitch sign on my door, so I could have anybody walk in at any time. That would be awesome. That could be a lot of fun. So, what I'm doing here is this is about as raw as it gets. This is about as raw as it gets. So what I intend to do with this stream is basically record and stream my composing sessions. I am um, I don't know if, sort of a burgeoning, I'd like to think at some point I'd be good enough to be a burgeoning symphony composer. I am learning as I go. I've been working on this sort of thing for, well, let's see, almost 30 years. Uh, Off and on with life getting in the way occasionally, but um, it's always something I've come back to. It's always something I've enjoyed. I always love being able to listen to music that tells a story. I've been captivated. I actually watched a video. This is what really got me back into this concept about a year ago. I was um, watching, I think it was a Vancouver, BC recording of Peter and the Wolf. And having not listened to the music since I was a kid and being absolutely just mesmerized by the fact that, I mean, we all know the story. We all know that there's different instruments that play the different characters and stuff like that. And I just found that it was just so, it was captivating to me back when I was a kid. Like I'm 4, 5, 6 years old. And it was even more so when I watched it a year ago because I realized, again, was reminded just um, how music can work as its own language. And what I found really interesting about that was, like I said, I just was sitting there just amazed. And I apologize in advance. I guess this is my shyness talking. That if I repeat myself or if I ramble a little bit, let me know. I will do my best to try and tighten it up. We're having a bit of an abbreviated stream today. I was originally going to do from 12 till 6. That might be a little ambitious for my first time out, but I am going to at least attempt to do at least a 3 hour stream from 3 p.m. Eastern Time to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's noon Pacific to 3 p.m. Pacific. I don't know how many I will end up with in the chat at the end, but I am, as they say, we are all the way live. Now, what I usually do, and I don't know if there's anything interesting I can say about any of this, but give me a chat there, Obsidian. Can you let me know how my audio is sounding? Guess I should have asked that before. No? Okay. Obsidian is in the back corner waiting. I don't know that she's actually there. Fortunately for me, she's on my Discord. Yeah. I'm live now. This is super awkward. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure what we're doing. Oh, it's really delayed. All right. Hi. So I see you waving there, Obsidian. Oh, it is super delayed on my video when I'm running it through the browser in Opera. Interesting. Okay. Well, Obsidian, can you let me know how my audio is sounding? Yeah, that's what I thought. I've been having that was part of the technical difficulties. I was having problems with my audio stream from the for the microphone. At any rate, I'm gonna try and tweak some things. So sorry if I bump the mic or anything like that, but yeah, it's been a bit of a fun ride today. All right, we're just gonna take that up. I was having trouble. I was having like a little bit of bubbling, or what I call bulging, in the audio earlier. So I'm not too sure what's up with that. Oh, okay then. Well, I'm gonna practically eat this thing, I think. All right. Let's see. How's that? How's that doing? Oh dear. All right. Well, we all get to learn today. This is not just about music. It's actually about how to, twitch like a human. All right. So there we go. No bulging, no big like bursts of loud noise when I get, kind of bursts and the real um, the plosive sort of sounds. Everything is good. Okay. I guess we're gonna have to try and figure out the audio for the Muse Score. This is a program I use, is Muse Score. I've been working in this since Muse Score, I think version 2. I'm not sure how long ago. It's been at least 10 years, I think. Um, and so yeah, let's just see. You know what? I'm gonna open up something that I wrote recently. Well, not wrote. I arranged. Um, I took a very public domain song, Happy Birthday, and I made it um, into my own symphonic version of it and everything. So I'm going to come back to the chat just here for a sec. Oh, it doesn't have to be a game title. How do I do that? Oh, what do I do? How do I do that? Let's ask ChatGPT. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah. Creator dashboard. All right. So that's here. Oh, I'm here. Ha, I'm silly. Okay, hang on. Just a second. I'm very glad that there's probably only like 2 of you here, or maybe only 1 of you. I don't even know. I have too many windows open. Where is my? There we go. All right. So stream information. Stream information. I don't see anything like that. Uh, let's try normal. Okay. And hmm. Okay. Now. Oh, this is super great. Oh boy. Right? I actually hadn't thought of that. That's how distracted about this silly technical stuff I'm doing here. So main dashboard page, look for stream information. Where in the heck is my? Oh, that's right. It was over here. Stream information. ChatGPT has been giving me very bad information this morning. I don't see it. You lied to me. Oh, go to my creator to edit stream info, usually near the top. Okay. Go to creator dashboard, right? Click edit stream info. What? Stream manager, maybe? Nope. Whoa. Left it up. I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh, edit stream info. Here we go. Enter a title. I'm just going to call it. It's probably too many words, but we're going to do it anyway because that's how I do. SymphonicStorm. We're just going to call this the pilot episode because that's funny. SymphonicStorm is live. 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 Choose a category. Search for category. Music. Oh. Musical studio, maybe. Sure, I guess. Now, add up to 10 tags. Okay. Symphony. This is so bad. I should have been doing this like a symphony. Composing. What else can I call it? Music. That should be fine. Content labels. Nothing. Okay, and then we go done. Perhaps. Yes. No. Hello, Hanlon. Welcome. Thank you for following me. All right. Okay, cool. So I'm guessing that's everything. Okay. Well, let's see. Now we're going to check the audio levels. It sounded fine on my end when I was playing and testing everything, being horribly late for my first stream. But, oh, good. But now we're going to double check and make sure that everybody's not blared out of their skulls by the audio. Where in the world? Oh, yeah, I got so many titles. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm going to we'll work on visuals and everything. And I know it looks very, it's probably not terribly clear. Like the score visually for everybody. I'm going to work on that in just a second. But we're just going to play it back and see how it goes for everybody. Hopefully, I am really sorry if it blows everybody's eardrums out. I tried to really work with the levels, so hopefully it's fingers crossed. All right. So. So now I've got my fancy Santa hat on and I can't hear myself at all because it's covering up my headphones. There we go. I am just flying by the seat of my pants. That's how I do. It's not too loud. How about you? I mean, this is easier for the viewers, I think, because they can always adjust their own volume. But for now, good to know. Good to know. Well, that's my birthday. I've turned old today. That's how old I've turned. I've turned old. I don't like to think about the fact that I'm as old as I am, but you know how it goes. Right. So here's the funny part is that when I'm working, okay, so now we're going to work on viewing the score. This is how, now this is a fairly normal piece for me in terms of instrument layout. I generally have, now this is a problem if what I'm seeing is what I'm seeing. Can I make this full screen with the chat showing? Always show events, quality auto, 1080p, show me the thing. Advanced. Oh, low latency. No, I want that off. There we go. Mini player. Ooh, mini player. What's that? I have no idea what I'm doing. Where is chat? Oh. Not available for this. Oh, that's interesting. Well, we'll make it less full screen. All right. So, ooh, I've got another. Oh, my channel. It begins completed. What? Okay. Still learning about the channel. This is what happens when I am a one-man band and trying to do everything, because my life gets in the way and then I can't get things done on this thing, and I should have been rehearsing this for a week. All right, so we're just going to go right back into it. No, I'm trying to see in my original. Oh, okay, so you can. Oh, interesting. So what I'm seeing in my view screen, I'm going to say is probably what you all can see in your view. And okay. So like I said, basically what I like to do is I usually have, this is my usual layout. I will adjust it occasionally just depending on what instruments I want. But generally speaking, you know, this is how it all looks. How well can all of you see that? If you can all just kind of give me some feedback in the chat, that would be super. Because I don't need it terribly, terribly big, but at the same time, if it makes it easier for you guys, I can absolutely make it bigger so that we all can see what the heck I'm doing. And there we go. So that one works. Okay. Yes. But then if I show you something from Phantom, which is like 40 staves, it might be a little bit problematic. Fairly clear this way. Okay, so let's try it up to 200. That works for me. That's pretty good. Okay. All right. Well, all right. So now we got, oh, now we're going to just zoom it. Even better. Well, yes, of course, it's bigger, it's brighter, it's louder. Well, it's not louder. I'm not playing anything, but you know what I mean. Audio on my end is still good for my voice and everything. That's all right. Whoop-de-woo. Oh, get out of here, hairline. Levels are fine. Perfect. Okay, so now we're at the part that I like the most, which is the totally unplanned, unseated fly by my seat of my pants or whatever. I, know that there are some people out there who don't wear pants. But they know who that was for. That's all right. Yes, exactly. I was trying to keep it low key, but there are rules. Pants optional, right? All right. Yeah, I know, right? Um, this is my first Twitch, so I'm just, this is as live as it gets, so I'm just going to be right back. All right. Hopefully, I didn't just commit the most egregious of sins and actually just walked away from my stream like that, but I don't know what I'm doing. But now I feel better. I have a sign on my door that says I'm streaming so that if anybody wants to walk in, they have at least the warning that they might be on camera. Because, that's how I do. All right. So now that we've got, now actually, just for the fun of it, I do have a YouTube channel that's tied to the Twitch channel as well. And this next piece is also on that channel, on the YouTube channel. But I thought, what the heck? We've already played this one. And because I do like it so much, we're going to play the very disturbed one. This is actually, oh, it looks so much different than the one I just wrote. Ah. But now we go do. And this one is very Adams. This one actually came first in my arrangements. I actually didn't do this one second. So this is for the other side of me, the birthday song. Maybe a little self-aggrandizing. Oh, that delay that just kills me because the music's already stopped on my end and I'm still seeing like the score go by as if it's still playing. That's going to wake me out. So there we go. So that's for me for happy birthday. Now I have a great many projects in mind for the channel. Just going to open up my little list of things just to see what I might want to start working on today, because we're not just here to talk about it. We're here to actually do it. And yeah, could be fun. Now let's see. Like I've been telling a couple of you, some of my friends, my plans for the channel. I'm hoping to rearrange old pieces that I wrote way back when. That definitely need an overhaul if possible, just to show how that end of things is done. It's not just about the composing; it's about the rearranging too, and the orchestration. I'm not as well versed in music theory terminology yet. I have I do plan to actively study up. I have a couple of very good sources, a couple of apps on my phone that I use that I'm going to be taking a deep dive into on the days I don't stream. But yeah, it's not just about the composing, it's about everything. We're going to just learn about it all. And just as I've always done, I just made it sort of like a life's goal. I just learning as I go, because that's how it goes. And that was very articulate. All right. So, like I said, just a bunch of there's going to be some old pieces that I'm going to be reorchestrating, rearranging, just to illustrate how that's done, and how, and playing the before and after versions of those. Uh, I do apologize way in advance to all of you, for the absolutely terrible quality of some of these really old arrangements, but you know, some of them were made in the 90s, and I will. That's about as close as I'll get to revealing my age. But when I was a teenager in the 90s, some pieces are just, and some of it's the tech, some of it's just I was a teenager and just kind of throwing crap at the wall, seeing what stuck. Um, I want to get a couple of caveats out of the way. I was in my teens a very huge Andrew Lloyd Webber fan. Uh, Not perhaps the greatest admittance today, considering everything. Um, Andrew has always been weird, but he's gotten old and weird now. It's weird and old and also weird. Why? Thank you. Well, I mean, I started a long time ago, though. That's the other thing. It's like I started a long time ago. Just Twitch wasn't around in the 90s. Christ, even like non-dial-up internet wasn't around back when I was starting out. So, yeah. Still won't tell you my age, kids. All right. So, and then there's going to be new works in progress that I've got on the burners, and I'm also going to be working on transcribing some public domain stuff. I've got a big project and that I want to work on in transcribing all of Holt's The Planets suite. That's for somewhere down the line. I plan a long time ago. The I was watching the 1925 film version of The Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney and all that, and being in the public domain, it can be redistributed by anybody and just slap your own sort of orchestral soundtrack on it. The one I had was just terrible. So I plan at some point to learn about how to. I'm going to try my hand at rescoring my copy, just for myself. My copy of the old film. It is the best version. Um, you know, there's nothing quite like putting egg yolks in your eyes just to get that really macabre effect. Lon Chaney was a master of his craft. I don't even know if is it Lone or Lon? I always figured it was Lone, but Lon Chaney, and then another couple of pet projects I have in the works that I plan on working on is like Peter and the Wolf. I wrote a couple of novels about 10 years ago. I wrote one called The Jagged Tree, and then another afterwards, which was a rambling mess called The Fourth Wall. But I plan on at least trying to score the book in kind of the same vein as as Peter and the Wolf, in that if I can try and articulate chapter by chapter how the story is flowing, what's happening in the scene, kind of make it like an oral musical. That's AU, not OR. Oral sort of storytelling, and see if I can't get the same point across with the story and everything, which would be kind of very, I think, a very interesting challenge. And But today, now that we've got the happy birthday tunes and audio and all that stuff out of the way, I thought, what have I got that I really must want to work on today? So let's take a look here. Let's see what piques my fancy. All right. So let's see. could be fun. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I have ADHD brain, and now I can't decide what I want to do. That is the greatest thing ever. All right. So I can almost hear if my parents are watching, and I suspect they might be. Um, at least one of them is sitting there going, "Oh my God, just do something, just play something, just I don't know, this is boring." But um, well, let's see. You know what? Hmm. Mhm. Nope. Okay, hell with it. Is there? No, see, now I can't find it. That's awesome. Oh, let's do that. That sounds like a good time. Oh my God, this is either going to be a complete amazing spectacle or a complete dumpster fire, but we'll find out. All right. Yes, we're going to do this. It's short. It's not amazing. Um okay, we'll make it big for some of us like me who have bad eyes. All right. So, this doesn't have a title. Well, it did kind of. Um but this one, when it loads, hopefully it loads. But this was I don't even know how old I was, in my early 20s, I guess, and I got in contact with a friend of mine who I used to go to school with, and they were, I think, they were involved in some project working on an anime, and they asked if I could write some music. The project either never went anywhere or I just never got notified and it went somewhere and I don't know about it. My music was never used because it was terrible, but I thought I could maybe try and make something out of it, because when I first wrote this, I wasn't using MuseScore. I was using a program called PowerTracks Pro, which was made in my hometown by PG Music, and was pretty good for what it was back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s. But it translated funny when I converted it from the old .mid, which is short for MIDI, file to a file that was readable in MuseScore. And this was one of my little pet projects I was going to work on, just trying to clean this up and fix it and make it not only legible, but better sounding somehow. And I'm not really sure why it's not showing anything. But that's interesting. Why are you not showing? Hmm. Yeah, it's really not wanting to show me anything, is it? Can any of you see? I've got the stream running in a browser, Opera browser, and I'm not seeing what I'm seeing in MuseScore showing up in the stream as it's playing in MuseScore or in the browser. And I'm just wondering, is everybody still seeing the disturbed birthday sheet music in the program on their screen. Is that still a thing? Let me know in the chat, please, because I want to make sure that that gets fixed ASAP, because if you can't see what I'm seeing, then there's no point. Really. So, all right. Hopefully we can get this working. This is 10 years from now, we're all going to look at this and go, wow, this was as rough as you could get, but holy cow, what a difference it makes over the years. Hopefully. All right. I'm not seeing anything. That's very concerning. So I'm just going to give that a quick refresh. Maybe that helps. Nope. Okay, I'm still not sure why I'm not. This is frustrating. Huh. Well, we're just sorting out technical issues because nothing is ever easy when it comes to me. Let's just close that. All right. I got. I have no idea what's going on. But that's very interesting. Okay, well, I'm a little concerned because that I'm going to just try another thing here, check another one of you. Because I am very unsure why it's not displaying what I'm actually supposed to be displaying. That's very weird. Oh, very, very weird. I don't know what's going on. I mean, it should be working. Oh, there we go. That only took a few seconds, but thank you. Finally. All right. Sorry about the delay. Sorry about the pausing. Sorry about the dead silence. Sorry about everything about that. But basically, what I was saying is that when it transferred, when it got integrated into MuseScore, this file, it translated everything very badly. And so I thought today, as part of what I was doing, is try to clean this up so that it was at least legible, playable, and better sounding, theoretically. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But how clearly can everybody see that? I'm going to assume that everybody can see that just fine. Let's see here. So for now, and I don't know the particulars about what all happened during the during the conversion process, but what this what MuseScore did was separated all of the musical tracks as you would. Everything became piano and an instrument. And yeah, everything is very, very, very wrong. So basically at the top here, we have piano strings, then piano bass. And I know I spelled bass wrong. There's a story behind that, and it's not even all that interesting. But we will be changing that. Then we have piano flute, piano French horn, piano recorder, which I don't recall actually using a recorder when I wrote this originally, but that's what it translated. So, and then we have brass. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Then we have a whole bunch of actual, just like 4 lines separately, piano, and then, yeah, I was a hot mess in my 20s. Piano, strings, funky thing. What the hell does that even mean? So yeah, and then some really weird stuff like automobile brake drums. I assure you that automobile brake drums was not something I added to the original piece to say anything about twice. And I probably only had one drum kit, but for some reason it split it into at least 5 separate lines. And then we have a timpani and another piano. So I'm not sure what's happening with that. A trombone and apparently MIDI strings again. Just a lot of real mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, and if I'm going too fast, please say something. But what we're going to do first is, I'm not even sure how we're even going to start fixing this. So because there's more to that, because strings, back when I was first writing, I'll give you a bit of background. Back when I was first writing, learning to write music and composing and orchestrating and everything, I didn't, this is how raw I was. I had no concept of certain instruments having certain different key change, like key signatures, and yeah, it was a lot. And so, I'm trying to scroll in the thing. So what we're going to do, I have, oh my gosh, so much mess. So what we're going to do first is we're going to highlight in MuseScore. This will not necessarily be a channel where I strip to the bone how to use MuseScore itself directly. But if I need to explain, if anybody is interested, obviously, like, hey, I use MuseScore, if somebody says in the chat or whatever, hey, I use MuseScore, how do you do this or X, Y, or Z? I can certainly look into it. I mean, we are all learning together. It's not just about my learning, it's about all of our learning. And if I'm going too fast, slow down, tell me to slow down. If I'm over explaining something, you can also tell me, okay, we get it, move on. But in terms of everything, we're going to start real simple, and we're just going to listen to each line. I have an idea in my head as to what the original piece sounded like. The unfortunate downside of that is that I only have a very, very old tape recording, which does not translate very well digitally. But so we're going to listen to each of these lines in turn, and just go from there. Figure out what's shaken and bacon in terms of each instrument, and then rename things, get it into a sort of sense where like this is like get it back into symphony arrangement, because there is a certain order when you're writing for symphonies and orchestral symphonies and things where like certain clusters of instruments, piccolos, flutes, clarinets, oboes, all the way down. Each has its own section. Each has its own place on the staff that usually doesn't change. So we'll be working on that today as well. And that's basically it. So for the next little bit, it'll be less of me talking, more of me just listening to the music, and we're just going to figure it out. So here we go. And the first one is, now I'm also going to do this. If it gets too big or too small or something, let me know. Yeah, because I don't know. So here we go. Okay. Okay, so that probably, let's actually, before we do any of that, no, we're going to just keep doing it the way we're doing it. So first of all, what note is that? That's at F sharp, sharp 1, double sharp, a G then. Why did you put it as a double sharp? MuseScore. Why didn't you just put it in G? What is wrong with you? Okay, so this is where it gets fun, because I will just start talking at the program and insulting it low key. It loves me. It's a love-hate relationship. It's fine. So why would you do that? Oh, very weird. No idea what's going on, but that's all right. So we're going to, you know what, right now, so we have all of these instruments here. And you know what, this says strings at the top. And so what we're going to do then is we're going to split this into 5 separate parts at the bottom. We're going to add new instrument. We're going to go down in the new dialog box. This I can't adjust, and unfortunately, I can't make it any bigger than it is. Oh, maybe actually I can. What if home preferences, appearance, 12 point. Let's make it bigger. Look at that. That's probably good. And if it's not, we'll figure it out. Woo. Okay, so now I'm going to just double check on things here. And we're just going to make that big. I welcome our Juan Wario. Welcome. All right, so yeah, I don't know how long you've if you're just coming in to the chat, Juan. I don't know if you caught my explanation about this, but basically when I was moving this from an older program I used to use into MuseScore, it made everything very interesting. And this was written when I was in my very early 20s, and I had a lot of very interesting ideas as to what I wanted my instruments to sound like. Yeah, okay. It's hard to keep track. This is my very first stream today, so I'm trying to keep track of everything. So if I miss something, that's just because I'm trying to learn how to multitask. All right, so we're going to break this down into, let's see, I'm just going to bring that back and just see what we can, I just want to make sure we can all see that when it gets there. The latency on my end is really long for the video. Just double checking things, because I don't believe in dress rehearsals, apparently. All right, so we're going to go and we're just going to add a contrabass section, a cello section, violas, and we're going to add one violin section, and then we're going to add a second violin section. And that's going to go probably right at the bottom or not. Oh, no, it got it right at the top. That's excellent. Okay, so where's the cello got to? Oh, there's the contrabasses down here, or double basses if that's more your thing. I know it has different words for it. Oh, come on. You want to. Oh, you're going to be like that? Oh, okay, fine. Be that way. We're just going to move everything down. And get my violins down there. Oh, my word. Why are you not doing the thing? Oh, you're bugging me. There we go. We're just going to move those down. Then we're going to move those right into place here. And now, so this is how you'd usually see it set up in, at least in part, for a orchestral symphony. For the string section, you have the first violins, second violins, violas, violoncellos, and contrabasses or double basses. And so what we're going to do now, first of all, I'm going to go, what tablet, that's fine. Okay. And we're going to go into style. And we're going to go, I don't like working. So in MuseScore, you have an option. You can now, and just recently with some of their newer updates to MuseScore 4, is you can actually import your own font styles for how the music reads. But I prefer the in-house Finale Maestro. It's what I've used forever. And I also like to do a couple of other, we're having okay. We're just going to wait for MuseScore to stop freaking out. There we go. And we're going to change a couple of things, just adjusting a couple of things here to the way I like it. Now, also, I forgot a couple of things. This is all just preferential stuff that I prefer my music to look like in terms of things. I hate Edwin. So what are we doing? We're doing this. What do I usually use? I think it's Caslon OS. And then we make that bold and we take it down to 8. And then we do that for the short name as well. We just do, oops, go back up because C comes before D. And then we make that bold and do. There you go. There we go. Now you can be extra fuzzy like me and make this into like Roman numerals because that's just a quirk of mine. Although I suppose it's probably not very standard for that. But there you go. So now I have violins sections all here. And if I wanted to, I could add a bracket to the section to make it all connect. And if anybody's curious as to how I did that, I am happy to explain it. But it's pretty simple. What ensemble am I writing it for? Well, originally I was writing it for, that's actually a good question. Because when I originally wrote it, I was very much, and I think this is kind of my ADHD, I was kind of just going with what sounded cool. But it was, sort of the conventional stuff. So strings, horns, brass, woodwinds, and drums, and a piano in this. So a pretty conventional symphony orchestra, but I didn't have, I was just like, okay, we're going to add strings and we're going to add this horn here. And it was all very I had no concepts of anything like that. But in terms of what's happening here today, what we're doing is we're taking that old piece and we're going to actually properly structure it in a in a symphony orchestra ensemble. And with any luck, this will not, I don't know that we'll get through all of it today, but at the same time, like we'll see how it goes, how my endurance holds out, and how long your interest, if I can keep you interested. So going back, and this is again another part of the problem, I'm not sure what, because again, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 piano parts here, and then another piano here, and then more piano here, and yeah, it's a mess. So we'll have to figure it out. And I'm not sure why the key signature is in B major, but because I'm almost certain I didn't write it that way. But there you go. So what we're going to do now is we're going to figure out that's G. F sharp sharp 1 is, yeah, double sharp is it's G. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into key signatures, click on that. And we're going to click on G. Now, this is where a bit of music theory comes in. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. But basically there are a multitude of key signatures that one can use. And we can get more into that on another stream. But for now, as I get more comfortable with explaining music theory, I'll be happy to go into it. So you can go in and MuseScore is actually quite helpful. If you hover over it, it will tell you the key signature and what it represents and what the name of it is, G major, the accidentals that might be being used. So here we see for the key of G, we have G major and its relative minor, E minor. Then over here we have D major and its relative minor, and B minor, and so on. Now it still thinks it's in, yeah, so we're going to just bump that up. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm not sure why. Okay, so we're just going to do. So let's see. We're going to actually. So I'm going to copy this just to here. Oops, there we go. And I'm going to use a lot of shortcuts here today because that's how I do. But standard, just Control C. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it, scroll down here, and the contrabasses I think will probably be just fine. And I will Control V or paste it, and it will automatically transpose it, which I love. So there's not all those ledger lines. That's these little lines right here for those that I know Hanlon personally, and I think she's not very musically theory related. So, these are ledger lines. That just shows how the note, but it's harder to read the more ledger lines you have generally. And now we're going to take this and I'm just going to go do. And what I did there really quick was just transposed it. Basically that line, it still sounds the same. If I go back here and I play it like this is in F double sharp, right? And if I go Control Y, which is redo what I just did, and now same note, just easier to read and in the proper key. And now I take this and I'm going to copy this up directly. I'm going to put that there on the cellos. Now, because some instruments have their quirks in a way, a contrabass or a double bass always plays an octave lower than it's written. So if you see, like, this note here is on the G line in the bass clef, and then up here it reads as if it's an octave lower than this, but in fact they're actually the same pitch. So you get this here in the contrabasses, and in the cellos doesn't play, too low. The cello does not have that low a register, despite being one of the larger instruments in the string family. So what we're going to do in this case, we could, by using the up and down arrows, we could adjust it that way, or we can do it quicker by going up to Tools and into Transpose, click on by interval, click on up, make sure that's, and then scroll through here to perfect octave, and then there we go. And now we have playable parts here. And then if I just highlight them both together so they're separated, I can hit play. Right? And now suddenly we have a much cleaner sound than just one thing I really like about MuseScore is the respell inharmonics option. You know, I don't know. I've never actually heard of that before. Interesting. Okay. Some programs have that to solve this exact problem in terms of transposition or writing it. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say there, and I'm sorry about that. But respell enharmonics. I wouldn't even know where to look. Let's see. Just a second. Oops. Yes. I see. Okay, it's clunky. But apparently it has a menu item in Tools, respell pitches. So let's take a look at that. Tools, respell pitches. I am not seeing that. Oh, change enharmonic spelling. Concert and transpose pitch. I guess that might be what you're talking about. Okay, so let's try that just for fun. On these two measures, see, we're learning things all over the place. Thank you, Juan. Let's see what that does. Because I am very much of the idea of if you don't know what it is, let's just do it. That's what Control Z is for. Well, hot damn. Yeah. There's actually two options in Tools. You can change enharmonic spelling, that's concert and transpose pitch, by just pressing J. If you change enharmonic spelling current pitch mode only, that's Control and J. But you know what? I'm not too sure. Let's take a look. Let's Control Z that, and then just press J. Does the same thing. Well, how about that? That's fantastic. I've been using MuseScore forever. I never even knew that was a feature. Thanks, Juan. That's great. Oh, all right. Well, you know what? Let's just have some fun. We'll just Control A everything just to see what happens. Well, okay, there's that problem. So let's do that. Let's do that. Oh, you know what? Let's keep all the violin, everything except that. Boom. And we'll just go J. Oh, that would help if I actually selected everything. Not just a pretty face, folks. So we're going to scroll through the entire thing. Oh, there's so much notation issue. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're just going to go here. There we go. And J. Oh. Well, okay. What happened here? Oh, I see what it did. Okay. So it just tightened everything up because less accidentals to play with. I get it. Okay. Well, I learned a thing. Today I learned. That's very cool. All right. Power moves. All right. So we're going to just save that as that. Yes. Bomb. Cool. Now, I mean, we still have to go through and tweak some things because I'm pretty sure that's a D. Yeah. So we're just going to put that in. No. There we go. That's very loud. Okay. All right. So now actually while I'm here, everything defaults when you add parts in terms of sections. It will, if you have muse sounds, it will default to the the muse sounds. But I have a couple of extra, I forget what they're called. Sound fonts, libraries, which I've paid for. And I really like the Berlin strings. I think they have a really nice sound. I made the mistake of actually getting the Vienna strings, and I'm not as big a fan of those. They have a weird swell that I'm hoping they'll fix at some point. But I'm just going through and just adjusting some things just in terms of voicing so that they'll sound a little bit the way I want them to sound. And so here, we're just going to work on this top line here for a little bit. So now we've got this this G major triad without the third. That basically is about as close to music theory speak as I usually get. But what I can do with that is I can either copy it or just translate it down below by note, like individual note entry. And what I think I'll do is I will probably, let's see, so we'll have these two. This is all part of the arranging and orchestrating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two notes in this chord, the G and the D. I'm going to make those divisi, which is to split them among the first violins, and then the third note in that chord up here. If we're going to scroll all the way back, oh, I actually went down too far. We'll put this in the second violins. Then we'll probably put this D in the violas, and then this in the and then this final G on the bottom in the cellos. All right, so let's do that now. So am I going too fast? And explaining everything badly? I hope not. But let's see. So we'll just go back here, and I am going. So this is the last 8th beat of the measure. And so I'm going to go down to the first violins, and there are some shortcuts that I will talk to you about here. So I'm going to click on this measure. This is the second measure of the thing. And if you press different numbers on the, I'm not sure if it'll work if you have a numeric pad to the right of your keyboard. I don't know if it'll work that way. Let's actually see if it works. No, at least not on mine. But if you see the numbers in a row above your keyboard, like above the letters and everything, if you press certain numbers just once, it will actually split the measures up if they're empty into different breakdowns of rests. For example, this is a whole rest, which means it's the whole measure is like it's a 4/4 measure. So that means 4 beats and that's all silent. But if I click the measure here and I just press the number 6, it splits that into 2 half rests, which are 2 beats each. And then if I take, so that's fine because I can leave that first blue highlighted half rest. I can leave that alone. I can either click with my arrow on the second rest, or I can just move over with the right arrow key and make that highlighted. And then I'm going to tap the number 5. That's going to change this into a quarter rest. And then I'm going to just jump ahead on the arrow and click 4 on that last quarter rest to make it 2 8th rests. And now I'm going to take that, highlight that last 8th rest, and I'm going to press N on the keyboard, and that will bring up my note entry. I know that you can actually insert notes by just entering letters on the keyboard. I don't like doing that. I'm very visual that way. I prefer to see where I'm putting the note exactly on the staff itself. So for here, I'm going to put the G from the top like that, and I'm actually going to select this not pan because that's really frustrating when I'm trying to show people what I'm doing. And to make it easier for if this was actually being played by a symphony, I'm going to go up here and click. These are the voices. I can choose up to 4 different voices to be played on the same line. That's complicated a little bit to explain, but basically what I do, and I'm just going to click and again to take myself out of notation mode. And this G is currently in voice 1. If you can see it, it's highlighted blue. And so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back into notation mode. And I want, sometimes you'll see, especially if you read music, you'll see like there's some lines that have 2 separate notes. Sometimes for choirs, you'll see like the altos will have 2 separate lines that some of the altos sing one line and some of the others in the same measure. And they usually have their notes separated by the way they look. And I will show you what I mean by that in just a second. So I'm going to press N again to go back into notation mode. And I'm going to go up here to my voices and I'm going to click voice 2. And what that's going to do then is now it wants to bring, I can't click directly over here and I've never figured out how to do that. I'm sure maybe one knows something. Maybe I'll learn something. Who knows? But usually for this, it will want to bring me right back to beat 1. So I will, it's fussy and it looks gross for a minute, but this is how I usually do because it's how I come to work. I will click a note here. This will get deleted in just a minute. But do you see now what happened with that G that I put there? The stem and the tail switched positions. It's no longer pointing down, it's now pointing up to reflect the fact that there is a second voice on the same line, but they want to be different, separated so that each instrument, each person who, like if you split the first violins into half of them play the G and half of them play the D, they know which is which. So now I'm going to just put this over here. We're going to clean all this up in just a second. And we're going to put another silly thing here. And then I'm going to I'm just going to double check and I'm going to go right back up, scroll. And I'm going to go right back up and double check that, yes, it's a G and a D on that line that I want to put down here. So I'm going to go right back down. going to put that there. And now I'm going to take myself out of notation mode by just clicking N on the keyboard, and I'm going to highlight by clicking on a note and then pressing and holding the Control key and holding these notes down. And you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to click these. If they're green, it's okay to delete them. If they're blue, like that, then I would want to leave them where they are. So I'm going to unclick that, and then I'm going to click that. And so now all of these notes here, I can just press delete. Oh, and now they've been replaced by rests because MuseScore hates a vacuum. And I'm going to press delete. They're all highlighted again. I'm going to press delete again, just like that. And now it's clean. And I'm going to do the same thing in the second violins. I'm going to press N for notate. Oh, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going ahead of myself. I'm going to highlight the thing. I'm going to press 6. Move ahead with the arrows. Press 5 to bring those to quarter rests. Press right again. Press this 4 to make these eighths. And now I'm going to press N, and I'm going to make that a G. Take that out of notation. And so what we have now is up here. The original notes were simply this. Okay. And now if we scroll down and we highlight, we can click one measure and then just press and hold Shift and click the contrabass measure. And now just these 5 staves will play. And I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And so this is how it will sound when they're all properly separated. Not too bad. I think I forgot something. So we're going to scroll right back up. And yes, I did forget something. I thought so. So these dots underneath the note, that represents staccato. That means, so, and if you're, it's the difference between holding the note for the whole duration of what it's supposed to be versus like, it's very sharp sort of cutoff. So it's the difference between da, 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 and da, 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 da. So what we want to do is just make these notes down where I've just put them in the staccato or in the violins. I'm going to, you can either highlight these separately if you need to, but for what we're doing, I can just highlight both measures. And I go over my little menu over here and I click on articulations and I check. There's several different markings here you can pick, but there's one that's called staccato. Or contrarily, if you want, up here at the top of the window, just above the score, right to the left of the voices, you'll see there's 4 sort of very common markings that you'd find in a score that if you need, they're sort of like the quick pick. And you can just click on that as well. And then, ta-da, we have staccato. Just like that. And now when we play these all together, it will sound very staccato, just like I wanted it originally. Not too bad. So there we go. And yeah. So we're going to continue with that. And we're just going to do this one page for now because that seems sensible. I'm going to bring it back out just a little bit. Hopefully you all can still see that. If you can't, please let me know in the chat. I'm looking through the chat, and I'm seeing Twitch was, I guess it was censored. I guess it's just not great back in the day. That's all right. So what we're going to do then is we're going to do the next. Scroll right back up. Oh, cool. Okay, so basically now we're going to take these notes here, and we're just going to click one. We're going to scroll along here, a couple of measures. And before we click anything else, we're going to press and hold Shift and go click, and it will highlight all the notes we want. I'm going to Control C to copy that down. And we're going to go right back down to the violoncellos, or just the cellos. And I'm going to click the next measure after the one we were just working in, and I'm going to Control V and boom. But remember, it won't play that low, so we have to bring it up. So we go to Tools and Transpose, then we click on Byte Interval, make sure it's selected up, click on the drop-down menu, and then go to Perfect Octave. And click OK. There we go. Now, because it will works just fine for the cello or the double basses, I'm just going to click on the double bass line and click Control V. Boom. Just like that. All right. And now we're going to scroll to the end of that, because when we look up here at the top line that I'm working on here, the cello and the double bass are that's it. Oh, I almost forgot. We hadn't dealt with this chord right here, which is this guy. Whoops, where'd he go? There we go. We hadn't dealt with him, and we always want to. I tend to ignore the violas, which is really bad, because the viola is, I think, actually arguably the nicest sounding of all of the string instruments, with the exception of a really well played cello. All right, so we're going to just scroll down here. Now we've got, if we look back, we've got our first violins, we've got our second violins, and now we've got the violas here. And they've got a funny clef. They have the alto clef, which looks different than the treble clef, obviously, but it also, it notates slightly differently. If you look closely here, you'll see, and I'll just scroll back because that made it. So on the treble clef line in the key of G, the only accidental you'll see is what's on the F line right at the top. That sharp accidental there tells you that every F is raised a semitone to F sharp. You can count it, like if I will just, for fun, I will just put, nope, take staccato off. I don't like using the quick picks up here, because it's too easy to have that remain, like it doesn't turn off until you click it, and I always forget. So I always like to use the articulations over here on the sidebar. But if just, how do you know that's an F line? Well, if I just put a C here just for the fun, that's middle C. And then if you count it up, if you know your scales, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then it goes right back to C. C, and then, so I can up and down, we can just move that up. So that's D, or C sharp, and then D. I'm going to move this up to just E, and then F, G, A, B, and the octave above is C. And then we can just keep going. So D, E, and F. And that's how we know. And it even says down here, but it adjusts it for the key signature. It says F sharp. And the number next to it just means where it lands on the not the scale, but the range of the instrument. pitch, I guess. So I'm going to delete. So that's how you know that this is an F sharp. And now, whoops, we'll just highlight that. And if that ever happens and you just want to go back, you just click the whole thing and click delete. And that will make it back the way it was. Now on the viola line, the alto clef is pitched a whole tone lower, I think is correct. And so instead of being on the top line, the F sharp being on the top line of the treble clef, it's actually on the top space in the alto clef. And so what that means is that instead of this line here at the very top where my arrow is pointing, that actually is G in the alto clef. It took me a while to figure out. But if we are, so you just have to, you get used to it, but once you do, it's just a fairly simple case of just transposing it down in your head. But in this case, I'm going to move across to this same place where these chords are, these notes are for the violins. I'm going to go ahead and make the rest to resemble that. So I go and click that, and I click 6 to make it both half rests. Then I click the second half rest, and I press the number 5 above the keyboard, and then again press 4, and we now we're ready for entry. And now I'm going to double check up here in the, okay, so this is in the, I'm just going to scroll back just to double check. So this is what's called a bass clef, and I won't go too much into detail like I did with the alto clef, but it's usually there's, if you're ever playing the piano, you get the treble clef is in the right hand and the bass clef's what the left hand plays. And so this is in the bass clef. And here for the bass clef, the F sharp, the F line is right here between these two dots. And this starting point, like if you're writing it down on staff paper, you would probably start your bass clef, you would draw the dot here and then swoop around. But the F line is right between these two dots of the bass clef, and that's where the sharp accidental is, so that you know that it's in the same key. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click this, and I see here it's in the key of it's G, but it's in the bass clef. So I'm going to, and that's D. So I'm going to assign that D into the viola. And you know what? I'm going to do like the first violins, so half of the first violins. I'm going to actually take both of those notes that are in the chord that we just scrolled down from, and we're going to put them here in much the same way that I did with these two. So I'm going to click on that 8th rest there and click N. And I'm going to, now this is where I always get mixed up. So this is D. No, it's not. It's the other way. I always get that mixed up. Okay, so no problem. I can fix that. So what I was supposed to do, if I want the viola to play a D, I want to actually put it here. I just went the wrong way in my head. So currently it's sitting in, if you look down here, you'll see it says B. That's the note it's playing. So if I put the note there, normally, and this is where I got mixed up because I'm translating from the bass clef to the alto clef instead of the other way around. So here in the violins, you get the D is here, and it's just a whole tone lower. It's on the space just in that same, just there, and that's sounds the same. But a whole octave lower, like the double bass. It sounds a whole octave lower than written. I think maybe I'm misspeaking. And then if we want to add the second note to that same line that makes it look separate like that, I go back into notation by clicking N on the keyboard and going back up to the voices and clicking voice 2. And we're just making up dummy notes and everything so I can actually move across. And I want a G, which is here. Yes. So I'm going to click here. And you see down here it says G3, so I got that right. And I'm going to take that, I'm going to click N to take myself out of notation mode, and I'm going to click these 3 notes, and I'm going to press delete. And then I'm going to go back and click pressing and holding Control while the rests are, like the current rests are green, and then I'm going to add more to that. And I'm going to click this and this and this so that all of these second voice rests are highlighted, and I'm going to press delete. Boom. And that's how we do that. And then, because these are staccato, I want these to be as staccato. So I'm going to go to articulations and click staccato, just like that. And now we have something that works a little bit better. Not too bad. Fair enough. 8VA clef. I wonder if that would, I've been working in viola, like I've been working with the viola and the alto clef as is for so long now. I feel like if I changed it, I would just make myself even more confused. but that's interesting. But hey, fair. If it works for you, everybody's got their own way of doing things. Like I up until just recently, I didn't know about the number, that pressing certain numbers on the top of the keyboard would actually give you like a quick link to like a different note value. And so what happened is that what I would end up doing is I would go in MuseScore, I would end up going all the way up here to the input by note frame, clicking that little pencil, and then going over here and selecting my note, whatever I wanted. And then if it was any augmentations, then I would go over here and then click on and so on, and then go back. And it was constant, like mouse back and forth, and it was so tedious. But now I'm sort of working between the keyboard and the mouse, and it sped up my workflow so much. I actually I found online a copy of the full score of the Phantom of the Opera, and I spent most of the score doing it the old way. And it wasn't until I guess I was just about to, was it Wishing He Were Somehow Here Again? So like halfway through the second act, and I figured out this whole number thing, and it was just like, where were you? I've been working on this thing for months. Where in the heck have you been? So, all right. So now we're starting to get somewhere with this reassignment of parts. And I'm going to go right back up to the original strings. And well, gosh, you know what? We got the same sort of chording as the original. Like if we go back, I'm actually going to sit that right there. Whoops. There we go. Are you going to go down? No, you're not. Okay. So I'm going to just adjust that. So if you look, we're in the second, looks just the same as over here. This is this, and that is that. So we're basically just going to repeat that. And what I'm going to do, that's dead easy. I'm just going to go down here. And there's much more to work on. So where did oh yes, it's broken it up, hasn't it? There we go. So I'm going to take these 3 measures, And I'm not even going to, I'm just going to highlight them by clicking on one, pressing and holding shift and clicking on the violas. That highlights all three in a cluster. I'm going to Control C to copy it. And then over here where this break is, and just because I want to make sure that I'm being consistent, I'm going to scroll back up and double check we're in the right measure, that these chords would fall. And we are, so I'm going to go right back down. This is the measure here, so I'm going to click just the top measure and click Control V, and it will input everything from the previous measures into their appropriate spots. Just like that. Just like that. And now I'm just going to double check. There's more nonsense here. And I'm just going to do a quick copy paste and scroll down. I'm going to give that shift, highlight both of these and just Control V. Oh, I thought that would work, but it didn't. Well, there you go. And now I'm going to go back up and do the transpose by interval, make sure it's up to perfect octave, and boom. And that's the first page for that first line. Now I'm going a little slower just to help explain everything as we're going. That would normally not take quite as long when I'm actually just working in the zone. But for now, that's that whole first line on the top. We'll just play it out here for a second. Oh, I don't have it on pan. So there we go. And now if we go down here to the new sections that we've all split it up, and I just highlight these individually so they all just play as a cluster and leave everything else alone, we get this. You get the idea. Yes, MeScore is a way of weirdly moving pages around when it's enlarged like this. I'm sorry about that. So there we go. And now we're just going to leave that first. Yeah, we're going to just leave that for now. And now we have, so now it's really fun. What I can do if I'm feeling bold. Well, first of all, we're going to go Control S and save everything. Boom. And now what I can do if I really wanted to feel daring, because I've moved everything from this first set of staves down to where I want them. I don't need this here anymore. So what I can do is I can just delete it. This first section up here at the top, or you can leave it alone if you want to, but I'm going to actually delete it because just from just the top section, not the whole piece, because I want to look at it. There'll be other measures further down the line. So I'm just going to click on one measure and I'm going to press and hold shift and click that and actually make sure that both staves are highlighted just to make sure. And it's only those two measures. So I'm just going to scroll it right back out here just a minute just to double check. And yes, it's just those 5 or 6 measures. What is it? 6, 7 measures. And I'm going to press delete. Only do that if you know what you're doing, I guess. Just don't end up accidentally deleting your stuff. But now we have, because we have everything we want from that first line, what we just deleted. It's all been transposed and rearranged here. So we don't need that superfluous. It's redundant. Sorry, Joe, you got to go home. We've been made redundant. And now we're going to work on the next line. This will be a little bit quicker. I won't do quite as much talking, I don't think, but this is what apparently I called the bass line. Not sure what that is, but probably an electric bass of some sort, but we'll hear it and let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, electric bass. Super boring. All right, so we're going to go back into layout up here, and we're going to add another instrument. And this time we're going to look into the strings plucked. This can include the conventional string section, that is violins, violas, cellos, basses. But in what's called pizzicato, that's where you pluck the strings rather than bow it with the bow and make that long, sort of smooth string sound we're all familiar with. Pizzicato, I always try and explain it if you don't know what that means. Basically, if you've ever watched Looney Tunes and somebody's tiptoeing sneakily and they go doop, 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 that's pizzicato. But it also includes, in the strings pluck section, they also include all of the guitars and various other stringed instruments that you would pluck, banjos, ukuleles, that sort of thing. I'm going to switch up here in common to all instruments. That will bring up everything, but I will scroll because I need to know what I'm looking for. And what I want is a 6-string electric bass. And I'm going to add that to my score. And for some reason, it wants to add it below the string section, which is not conventional. Usually it sits above from everything I've read. So we just be able to go into the layout and move that around. I can move it anywhere I want to, right? I can move it up between the automobiles, or I can move it back down to where I want it. So we'll just stick that right above the violin section. And there we go, just like that. And this one's fairly simple. I'm going to quickly look up, way up, and I'm going to see, yeah, it is just the exact same line as the cellos and basses, but somehow more boring because bass guitars, back then I didn't know how to write for them very well, but we're just doing a straight transfer of instrumentation and cleanup. So I'll just click that one measure at the very front and then scroll to the very end of the first page. Whoop, and I screwed it up. So I have to, if you ever do that, that's not helpful because it takes away what you originally highlighted. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to scroll slowly to the very end of the page. And I'm going to press and hold Shift and click, and that should highlight everything. Ta-da. Copy, scroll down to where I see it says 6-string electric bass, and I'm going to click on the first measure here, and I'm going to copy it. And just like that. And then pretty simple. If I want to listen to it with the rest, because that's that whole line. We're done. It was way less complicated than the strings were. So that whole line is done. And if we want to listen to it with in conjunction with the strings that we just worked on, then I can just click everything and press and highlight it, and then it will just play these 6 lines together. You get the idea. Okay, so that was that literally that was it. That was it for that, and that's just the electric. Whoa, ah. Okay, if you ever do that what I just did is you can actually shift part of or all of a measure sort of freely. And it's made a mess of some scores when I've done it by accident. Just be careful when you do that because it can be a real mess, and Control Z is your friend. All right, so now we're looking at the piano flute, and I'm just going to bring it out just a little bit. If it gets a little small to read, that's all right. And for the next few lines here, you'll see flute, horn, all of this stuff. They've got no notes in them, so we're not going to deal with them just yet. The next one in line is the 4-piece drum kit. Well, what the hell am I going to do about that? So, PowerTracks Pro, like I was saying earlier, this is a program I used before I got into MuseScore and proper notation. And PowerTracks Pro had a delightful feature where you could, it had samples, usually one measure samples of like different types of like drum fills and things of that nature, so that when you're, working out a rhythm, but you get to a complicated, like something like a drum fill between verses or whatever, it would be able to fill that in. And here it looks like it's tried to put everything on one line, which is perfectly fine in MuseScore. But I had originally had just the hi-hat. Not sure what's going on there. So I'm going to actually play that just now and just see how it sounds. And now I hate it. Yeah. Because it's drums, and I've learned a bit about drums in the years since I've written this, and it is, wow, that's unfortunate. Okay, then. So now we have to figure out what we're doing with that. So I'm going to go and add a line. And I'm going to go into unpitched percussion. I'm going to first switch this to, no, I'm not. I'm going to just choose a common drum kit, pretty standard drum kit. I'm going to add that to my score. And where is it going to go? Drum kit 2, it sits right above the acoustic bass, or the electric bass rather. Where is it? Right here, drum kit 2. And we're just going to rename that drum kit. Bamf. Now I could separate everything into its individual parts, have the hi-hats on one line, the bass drum of the drum kit on another line, and snare on a third line. But why? Why would I do that? Not conventional. And again, this speaks to my lack of knowledge, really, of how to arrange for symphony or even proper orchestration, but not typical that you would find a drum kit, standard sort of rock drum kit in a symphony orchestra that would, you have bass drums and snare drums, but they're concert bass drums and they're concert snare drums. And maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should put in a bass drum and a snare drum and just do it the standard way. That could be fun. Let's see. So, although it doesn't, the bass drum, like a concert bass drum, wouldn't typically sound Like it's a very specific sound I wanted in my head. So we're actually going to keep it just like this, but we will probably add a bass drum, a concert bass drum in conjunction in the percussion section later on. But for now, we're actually going to keep this drum kit, and we're just going to try and keep it as it was originally written, no matter how badly. And so here we have on, again, like I explained earlier with the strings down here, if I scroll back, you remember how we had these two notes split by voices on the line. Same thing basically here. The bass drum is the second voice. If you look up here, it will automatically highlight this as the second voice. And then the hi-hat, which is something ridiculous in sixteenths. I don't know what I was thinking. But that's up here, and it's in the first voice. And if you look up here at the second voice, you'll watch when I click on this X, you'll see that switch over here to the voice one. Right, so then you can just go through and click, because some of these don't sound the same. And you see down here, these first two say closed hi-hat, and it tells you the duration and all that stuff. So that's when, if you've seen a hi-hat, it's two small cymbals that are sort of vertical, or rather horizontal to each other. And this is what you tap for rhythms like that. But every once in a while, there's a kick or a pedal that you can actually open it and give you that open sound. So here we have hi-hat. I think this one's an open. No, it's closed. Ah, that's the open. Notated wrong here. So what we're going to do, and that's the same. It's the same rhythm, closed, 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 open, and repeats. Oof. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that because it's very busy. In conjunction, when it's up against the strings, which are this fairly simple 4-beat, like boom, 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 and then you got this. It's too much. So what we're going to do then, I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to just go ahead and enter one measure. I'm going to just go into notation, and I'm going to click. And for the drums, it will automatically, I don't have to click voice 1 or voice 2 here. It will just automatically put things like the bass drum in the second voice without my having to tell it expressly. So for this, I'm going to just enter the drum beat, which is in the bass drum. I'm just going to go. Okay. I'm going to take myself out of notation mode, and then I'm going to do something in here that we did something similar for the strings, and that is to go in and just change the voice, because I also got Berlin percussion as part of that was one of my little purchases earlier this year. So I'm going to go into the mixer, and I'm going to find the drum kit that we're working on, and you can see the original name that I have since changed was Drum Kit 2. That's the one we want. And I'm going to click on the little drop down arrow here and go to Orchestral Tools, Berlin Percussion. And I think there's a drum kit in here, but maybe I'm wrong. As usual, I'm totally wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Muse. I'm just going to double check. Okay. So we're going to actually leave that alone. Never mind. I was mistaken. We're just going to click, and the quick way to get into the mixer is you can click here up at the top where it says mixer, or you can just press, it tells you, just press F10 and it takes that away. You have two different options for bass drum in the conventional common drum kit. You have bass drum 1, or if you go, I believe it's down, you can click 1, like on the down arrow, and it will switch to the different voice. like to the different type of drum. Yes. So that turns it into a slightly different sound. So if I go back up, and then you press one too many, then it will go into different aspects of the kit. They don't sound too similar or too dissimilar. So we're just going to leave that there as it is. And now what the heck to do with the hi-hat? Because I do like that idea of the hi-hat, but it is too busy. So I'm thinking, well, we're going to just try a couple of things. And what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to click on the measure. I'm going to click N. And now I'm going to click the number 4 before I do anything. And if you look up here in the notation duration, you watch it's highlighting the quarter note. And watch what happens when I press the number 4. You won't see me press it, but when I press the number 4, it will move that to the left one to select the 8th note. And that's what we're going to do. So here we go, just like that. And now I can click up here. And if you don't know where all of your different instruments, and I don't, quite frankly, don't know where all the different parts of the drum kit fit on the staff, you can kind of up and down arrow to figure out kind of where you're going. But I have a rough idea for some of the basic stuff. Like I know where the toms get notated, like the big, tom drums that sit in front of you that you hit with the drumsticks. And I know where the bass drum goes, and I know where the hi-hat goes. And I know where a couple of the cymbals go, the splash cymbal and the crash cymbal. But here on this line, and you'll see that there's different notation for different parts of the drum kit, different instruments, I guess you would say, in the drum kit. So the bass drum gets a standard looking note, like down in here in the electric bass or in the strings. But for the hi-hat and some other of the cymbals, you get an X looking notation. Played the same in terms of duration, but it just looks a little different, I think, basically so that the drummer knows what's what. So we're going to just click that. And then we're going to just we're going to give this an 8th note sequence through the measure, with every 4th beat being a open hi-hat rather than a closed hi-hat. And we'll just see how that sounds. If it sounds a little better, maybe a little less busy. So we're just going to do that, and then another like that. And then we're going to click on the, we're just going to make that a closed hi-hat, but with a difference. And I never remember which way to go. Either up or down with your arrows will either make it an open hi-hat or a closed hi-hat. I will find out. No. Okay, so if that happens, I just go exactly the opposite button I pressed. And then I go down. Nope. Ah. Okay. So what I did then is I pressed, so now we're back in the closed hi-hat, and I press down, which for some reason, I'm not sure what's happening. I think that's the second type of hi-hat. Oh no, sorry. So we're going up. I always get turned around. So that's a different type of hi-hat. And then if I press up again, you hear that? You can actually hear the hi-hat closing at the end of the duration. So what you end up getting, and I will just actually redo this from here. What is happening? Oh, 4. And then we go, so we'll just do that again. And then we go up, up, just like that. And now we have, so instead of this, and we'll play this back just to get a handle on it. So this is what this sounded like originally. Right? Now, we go down here and we press. Not terrible, not great. but now it sounds a little bit better, a little less busy. And if I bring it all together with the rest of what I've already worked on here, then we'll let's bring it just like that. Actually, much better feel, I think. That's not bad. Okay, so, and now we just take a look up here, and it looks about the same for ever. Oh, Lord. Okay, so that's fine. We're just going to go right back down here, and we're going to just copy paste. Control C, and we're just going to cut. We're going to find where the measures end in the new sections that we put together, and that's here. So we'll just go back, and I can easily just scroll ahead with the arrows too. So I can just select the next measure and Control V, and then move ahead, Control V, Control V, Control V, and so on. Now we've got it starting to come together. So now if we go here and highlight everything, now for this break, you hear this, it's right, you get a little bit of an 8th fret rest beat there. So we're going to change this measure for the drums just a little bit to help reflect that, so that it's more in keeping with the other instruments in terms of rhythm. And I'm thinking I will probably make this. What can I do? Let's see. Maybe I'll make that. And I can click on this note here, and I can change its duration and make it a quarter note. Boom, just like that. Now, I was thinking originally maybe it would be better if I just made it a crash type symbol, but maybe not. I'm going to just try it and see with the other. We'll see how it goes. And we're just going to play that back and see how it goes. Not terrible. I am, though, going to make this, well, it doesn't matter. It's a beat. So we're just going to Control save that, and I think that'll be okay for now, just for now. All right, so I'm hopefully not boring everybody. But let's see. I'm going to actually stop working on this piece for now because it's just a lot of fiddly. And let's work on something I think that's maybe a little bit more melodic, a little bit more interesting. All right, so we're going to close this up, and I'm going to open up another file. And this one's from one of my trunk scores from way back in the day. Actually, no, you know what? We're going to do a work in progress. We're going to work on something that I started actually I was fiddling on the piano here, just to my right. I guess start of October. And it's called Ghost Ship. It's not done. Very, very not done. But this is more conventional. This is sort of how I usually have my work set out in terms of arrangements and stuff like that. So I'm going to actually reduce this just a little bit to 300. Hopefully everybody can still see it. And let's see, what have we got? And there we go. That should be okay. All right, so here we have, this is basically, I have a template that I've made. And this is basically how a lot of symphony orchestras are arranged. So from top to bottom, we have the piccolo, which is a very high, small woodwind instrument, similar to the flute, but much higher, like an octave, plays an octave higher than written. You see it in a lot of sort of marches and things like that. So it's very sparing how you use it. You don't want to use it for like really, like it's a lot. You don't need a lot of piccolo in anything. And then we have the flutes, 1 and 2, oboe, and then we have the English horn, or in the French, the cor anglais. And then we have the B-flat clarinet, the bass clarinet, and the bassoon. That wraps up that entire first section is the woodwinds that I use. There are other woodwinds that you can use, but these are my 7. And then down here in the brass, we have another section. We have the French horns 1 and 2, and the French horns 3 and 4. And then we have the B-flat trumpets, the trombones, and the bass trombone. And these make up the bass, or the brass, rather. And then underneath that, we have the timpani, that's or a kettle drum. That's where you get those really robust sort of swells. It's a percussion instrument, very unique sort of sound. If you've ever heard Peter and the Wolf, I believe they used it specifically for, not just for, but to illustrate the blasts of the guns that the hunters used when they were trying to kill the wolf at the end. And then next we have a glockenspiel. This is in the percussion family, even though I believe it looks like, let me double check that. I always kind of get mixed up, but let's see. Glockenspiel, for some reason, I always think it's a keyboard, but I think it's actually more like, it is more like a xylophone or a vibraphone. Very bright, tinkly sort of sound when used correctly. We'll probably not use it in this piece, but it's there just for now. And then in the percussion as well, we have the bass drum, which is a big, there's various different sizes you can have. But they're the big round drums that you can sometimes see at the back of the orchestra. And then we have the snare drums and the drum kit proper. And then a couple of different types of cymbals and a tam-tam, which is another word for a big gong. If you've ever seen those, like they swing the mallet and it's hung vertically and it makes this big sort of sound. That's a tam-tam. And then now we have underneath that, we have a celesta, which sounds a little similar to the glockenspiel, but it is a keyboard like the piano. And then beneath that, we have the grand piano, obviously, and then a harp, which is there. And then in this particular piece, I have added a tenor line for the men and a bass line for the men. The idea behind this piece in general was I had this image in my head when I started playing the little scrap of melody on the piano that it was I couldn't quite decide if it was a pirate ship that, like the ghost of a pirate ship with all of its crew were ghosts as well. And whether I couldn't quite decide if they were going to or coming back from battle. And so that's where I'm going to be adding the, that sort of sonorous, very, that low sort of song that, from the Dead Pirates. At some point, that's where I'm going to put them. And then we have our string section down here. And we have a solo violin, and I'm actually going to change that because it's only one. I don't need to make, reference to, there's just the one. So we have a solo violin and a solo viola, and they open up the whole piece with a bit of back and forth. And and then we, of course, down at the very bottom, we have the first violins, the second violins, violas, cellos, and basses. And so to start with, I'll just play a little bit of it through, but I thought maybe we could work on this together just to show you a bit of the creative process with something that is entirely new, that isn't some ramshackle thing from way back in the day. And so this is called Ghost Ship. Tentatively, it might change at some point, but here, this is what I've got so far. And I very, very deliberately left this for when I started streaming. I was going to keep working on it, but then I thought this would be perfect for working in the stream. So that is where I'm at with that so far. Whoops. And so what we have here is basically the start of something very interesting. All right. I hope. There we go. So what we have is the violins start coming in, and then the violas, and then the cellos and the basses take up the sort of start that real, like, the maintaining of the beat, and then they fade down a little bit, and then the solo violin and the solo viola come back, along with a concert snare drum very quietly, and the bass drum very hauntingly. So what I'm going to do, actually, because I am madly in love with a particular type of bass drum sound, I'm going to go into my palettes, and I'm going to go down to text, and I've got that bass drum highlighted, and I'm going to click staff text, and that will bring up this little option here, and I'm going to click that. Oh, no, I'm not, because apparently I need to do some things. So I'm going to go into my measure, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to, aha. So I have not worked with this at all since I started working with it, because I really wanted to do something with it with the channel. Okay, so I'm going to just adjust some things, reassign some voices. Just give me a moment. And violins 2, violins 1. And then over here, we're going to, okay, even though it's a keyboard type instrument, it is still a part of the Celesta is still part of the percussion family. So we have to make sure that we're in the right spot for that. So now I'm working with the tam-tam, and that's this guy here. And I'm just going to reassign a lot of these muse sounds to the Berlin percussion. And the Berlin strings are already done. So I'm just going to go in and just adjust these because it's good for consistency. Change that to percussion and muse sounds. Where's the drum kit? There it is. Snare drum is in the orchestral tools in the Berlin percussion. what is that snare drum? Just there. Bass drum, the same thing. And that's up there. Glockenspiel. Percussion. Glockenspiel. Where are you, Glockenspiel? You always hide on me. And where are we at? Timpani. Oops. Yeah. Timpani there. And that should be just fine. Everything else is good. So now I can press F10 to get that out of there. And now what I can do is there's a very select type of, there's very limited options with the bass drum for Muse sounds. With the Berlin percussion, you do get quite a bit more, which is why I got it, because it's fantastic. So with this, I'm going to take that bass drum. I'm going to add in text. I'm going to click staff text, bring that back up, click the little speaker. And now I have an option of 4 different sizes of bass drum. And I do like the 40-inch, and I think it will work well for this sort of very ominous piece. So I'm going to make that 40-inch there, and I'm going to just click anywhere out, and that'll just, if you ever print this, if you ever assign something like this to an instrument and you get that little speaker, that speaker will not show up on your final printed version of the score. So all the orchestra players will only see just the notation, not the little symbol. And so there we go. And so now what we have then is and if we just highlight those 2 instruments, we can actually just play those. And you get the idea. But it's better to have them all consistent and the way I want them to sound. So there we go. And now we're going to just run this back from the beginning and see if how that sound changes with the switching of the Muse sound strings to the Berlin strings. Okay. So there we go. In this particular section of the piece, I have the solo violin and viola start to fade out to nothing. And then the first violins and the violas, I believe. Yes, the first violins and the violas come in with their own very quiet, but they start to transition from the solo to the full orchestra, like in the full string section. And this is not quite done, but it will. So if we just listen to these 4 instruments, and I'll just highlight them like we did in the other piece. And actually, we'll just take it back from here. But you might be able to hear the difference. And now here's where we get, actually, I'm going to just start composing because this is where my brain starts to work. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just put this notation here, and I'm just going to start working. And you know what? I think I'll take that and that, and then go like that. Oops, not quite. Stop that. And actually make that a mezzo forte. So now if I take this back, you might be able to hear the transition a little bit smoother. Actually, wait. Okay, whoops. I'm going to actually fade it out from here for the violin and the viola. Boom. There we go. So now, oh, and almost forgot. Let's make that really quiet. So they know, like, it for sure it's going to fade right out. And so now we go from here. I might change that. So what I've done here with these is I've made them tremolo. So normally, like when you hear a note like that, it's fairly smooth. But when it's tremolo, it's that sort of shaky way of playing. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but it's definitely a different sound where it's like it's technique that the players use. I'm not familiar with the term. We'll learn. We'll just take that and we'll just try that again and see how that sounds. Okay, not bad. And so what I'm going to do now is, what is this? This is E flat. So I'm going to actually just transpose this. I'll do it the old-fashioned way just for fun. This is the violin, first violins. This is the second violins. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in a second line, but a third below what's written here, just to see how it sounds. And sometimes it's just a little bit of play. You want to make, you just, and then that's, we'll just do, that's 3, 6, 9, and 10. We'll just do the thing. You know what? Almost. Okay. And we'll just made it up just like that. Oh, and I did something wrong. So what I'm going to do now actually is I'm just going to bump that down to the B line like that. That's now a third below. And now we're going to do that. Okay. Actually, I'm going to change that dynamic from pianissimo to just pianissimo. Make it not quite so quiet when it's coming in. But we're just going to play that from itself. And here's something fun I'm going to try, actually. I'm going to take that last high and I'm going to move this up and naturalize it. See how that sounds. Because a lot of this is just how I hear it in my head, but it's also by feel. I think we have a winner on that one. All right, so I'm going to save that. And I think that sounds pretty halfway good. Now what are the cellos and the basses doing? They're just, okay. So we're just going to play it back from here just to see how it all sounds all together now. Okay. So that's a C and that is a G. That finished on the G. So we're going to go back to the C here. Let's see. All right. Okay. It's an E flat. You know, let's just do something basic and see what it sounds like. We're actually going to take the melody line for the solo violin and just transpose it into the cello line here, but keeping the rhythm of the viola instead of the violin. I may actually change the violin rhythm in this measure, but maybe not. But I am going to keep it in keeping with the rhythm of the viola up here, the solo viola, instead of the violin. So I'm just going to take that and go G, F. I'm going to add a fermata to that. That's this little half circle with a dot in it. That just means to hold that note for a little bit longer. I'm going to just add that there because it mates up with these two here. And then I'm going to go right back into my notation. And what is that? C. But down to the, what note is that? That is E flat to D. I'm going to make that an eighth note and then go back here and go, oh. I'm going to make that, oops, E. And there we go. That's that up until that point. So we're just adding that a little bit in there too. And then I'm going to go into the basses and do basically the same thing, but just transpose it a little. And so we'll keep the C here. And then up here to the G, which is here. is that pizzicato? Why is it pizzicato? That's a choice. I might actually make that. So there's terms in strings when you're writing for them. Pizzicato gives you that sound. And then something called arco is how they usually play it with the bow. Like that sound. So what I'm going to do here is it's pizzicato for these because it gives you that sort of driving beat, that dum, da, dum, 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 right? And actually I'm going to just blend it better in here with the cellos by making it, I'm going to make a notation that makes it go back to arco. That means they're going to bow the notes rather than pluck them. And suddenly we have okay, not terrible. And so what's that? That's A. You see sometimes how it doesn't work. But, you know, sometimes that happens. But let's see how it sounds all together. Doesn't work. And that's okay. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do now is I'm going to call it for today. That was sort of an abbreviated stream. My plan is to do from 12 p.m. Eastern time to 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 days a week. In the meantime, so I'm just going to wrap it up real quick here. I wanted to say thank you for everybody who stuck around. Thank you for a couple of the passersby who came in and stayed with me for a little while, Juan and everything. Obsidian Rose and Hanlon. It was terrific to see you. Thank you so much. But in any case, that's going to be it for me today. I will be back hopefully on Friday. I will be working busily to try and tweak the channel and things in the meantime. But for now, I will be, like I said, I'm going to just wrap it up and see you guys all back here on Friday. In the meantime, thank you so much and have a really great rest of your evening. And we'll see you later. Thank you again.